Hey friends, Orf here. Kendrick Lamar. That name alone carries weight in the world of hip-hop and beyond. Seen by many as not just a rapper, but an architect of modern rap itself. And from the very beginning, he's been an artist who challenges not only the norms of rap, but also the ways we think about race and identity and mental health and social justice. And exactly 1 week ago, as of filming this, we received his new album, GNX. Yes, with every album, Kendrick evolves, but with his latest release, we've seen him push the boundaries of what we can expect from him, both musically and thematically. I've been listening to Kendrick for a while now, and I wanted to make this video because this new album feels different than the previous ones. Hopefully in this video I'll be able to explain why, but just as a teaser, I honestly haven't felt the same way about a Kendrick album as I have since To Pimp a Butterfly. There's something about GNX that is indeed a culmination of everything that I love from Kendrick, so in this video, hopefully I'll be able to share my opinions with you. This is why I think GNX is absolutely amazing. Kendrick Lamar's rise to prominence is definitely something that is well documented. I mean, he started off as a lyrical prodigy in Compton, and after releasing Section 80 in 2011, it was clear that this was no ordinary rapper. Something about him caught the eyes of many, and it was Good Kid, Mad City in 2012 that truly solidified Kendrick as a force to be reckoned with. With its deeply personal storytelling and cinematic feel, it captured the complexities of growing up in Compton while dealing with the allure and the dangers of street life. And what followed a few years later in 2015 is considered by many hardcore listeners to be his magnum opus, To Pimp a Butterfly. It's been said many times on the internet before, but that album really was a revolution. Kendrick and his collaborators blended jazz, funk, and soul into this hip-hop formula, creating an album that felt like a movement. It wasn't just about the music, it was about pushing the culture forward, making bold statements about race, identity, and American history. Definitely one of my favorite albums of all time, which made the release of Damn a little off-putting to me. Still an amazing album, just more digestible, more radio-friendly. Oddly enough, as far as I know, Damn is actually Kendrick's favorite of his own works. But while there were some elements of self-reflection on Damn, I definitely think he carried that aspect further in Mr. Morale. To me, this was the one where he was reflecting most on his life and his past, and it kind of showed us a side of Kendrick that many had never really seen before, while still providing fantastic beats, amazing production. But here we are now with GNX, almost out of nowhere. And something fantastic about it is that it kind of feels like a natural progression of all of Kendrick's previous works. But yet it feels totally fresh despite it being, how should I say, straightforward? Now, I've kind of split this up into 3 central points that I have, and the first one relating to the fact that understanding Kendrick's previous records usually required understanding Kendrick himself. Of course, each record always had some radio-friendly hits that didn't really require that, but Kendrick has not been known for separating his personal life from his music. I mean, if anything, he's known for the complete opposite. He's always been one to portray what his life has been like in such an artistic way, which I think was a defining factor in most of his previous albums, especially To Pimp a Butterfly and Good Kid, Mad City. But the man who made Good Kid, Mad City is now a father and a husband and a global icon, so with these life changes, the context of his music has also shifted, and GNX kind of feels like the culmination of everything he's been through. Here's what makes GNX different though. In a way, it is one of the most honest and insightful things that Kendrick has ever made, but rather than explaining this in a very deep way with historical references and metaphors and a high number of lines that are indeed up for interpretation, here Kendrick did it by being direct. Yeah, you would think that at this point in his life and his career, he would possibly get even more vague with his storytelling and even more in-depth. But weird as it may sound, one of the things that I like that sets GNX apart from the rest is that it achieves some meaningful reflection without being vague. In a way, GNX is the most digestible record since Damn, and you might be thinking, wait, isn't that what you didn't like about Damn? And the answer is yes, it is. But the difference here to me is that Kendrick is tackling themes that wouldn't be out of place on TPAB, but at the same time saying what's on his mind, and what you hear is what you get. Each of these songs lyrically leaves less up for interpretation than most of Kendrick's music in the past, and yet the performances never feel like they spend too long in one place. It's also a perfect mixture, perfect balance of consistency and variety. I mean, take a look at Man at the Garden, Reincarnated, and Heart Part 6. So in tracks like this, Kendrick is indeed delivering some profound commentary about life, society, and especially his own personal struggles. Perfect examples of how GNX takes these deep, sometimes heavy themes and packages them in a way that's easy for listeners to digest. It's kind of like Kendrick is giving us a glimpse into his world, but in a way that still feels like we're very much a part of it. With all of the top 5 tracks on this list being from this one album, you gotta admit this stuff is so easy to access for so many. And part of the reason for that is not just the content of the lyricism, but also what's going on musically. Which brings me to my next point. So yeah, I guess the more direct, more radio-friendly nature of this record is actually not a bad thing. Both lyrically and musically, by the way. Musically, Kendrick's really paying homage to classic hip-hop. I mean, anybody can find a track on here and immediately notice the influence of the 90s West Coast rap in the beats, especially in the tracks that bring back that iconic gangster hip-hop sound. But what's cool is that Kendrick just doesn't copy it. I mean, he's blending these sounds in a way that feels fresh and modern. One moment you're hit with a beat that feels like it could have been pulled straight from a golden era of California rap, and the next moment it's something completely new that still gives you a nostalgic vibe at the same time. Of course, I'm pointing to tracks like Heart Part 6 again, and Squabble Up, and especially Luther with SZA. God, that song is so beautiful. Their voices just match so perfectly. It's not on every song, but the album as a whole is a really great mix of old school and new school. I feel like he's really showing us that you can still draw from the past while creating something forward-thinking. I mean, this West Coast rap nostalgia has been kind of Kendrick's theme this year, and it even extends to the album cover. It's like I said at the beginning of the video, before we had Kendrick, it had been a little while before we had somebody that represented Compton as well as Kendrick did, and it feels like he's just reminding everyone of that right now, especially with the Not Like Us music video. But of course, no discussion of Kendrick Lamar would be complete without talking about the content of his lyrics. I guess my third point is a bit of a repeat of the first one, but I really just wanted to focus on how Kendrick really is going even deeper into self-reflection than I think he did on Mr. Morale. What's striking this time is how much easier these reflections are for the average listener to connect with. In previous albums, Kendrick's introspection was often layered and complex, but on this album, he's finding ways to deliver those deep thoughts in a more straightforward way. So what's different about it here? Well, it kind of feels like he's inviting everyone into his journey. Of course, he's done that on previous releases before, but couple that with my first point, and it feels like this is not just for the hardcore Kendrick fans anymore. This is where I feel like Kendrick has been shining more this year than maybe any other year in his past, especially after the high-profile beef with Drake and his Super Bowl halftime performance announcement. It feels like more people are ready to hear what he has to say, and this album makes it even easier to take in all of those heavy truths. Purposefully choosing to reference people like Lil Wayne and not reference people like Drake. I mean, talk about striking when the iron is hot, right? He picked the perfect time to release an album that was easily digestible to the casual listener. I guess that's my third point. It's not about just what this album is, but how it coupled so perfectly with the timing and what's going on in Kendrick's career right now. Couldn't have picked a better time to get a lot of people that maybe weren't a huge fan of you to start being one. And that's part of the brilliance of GNX. Kendrick is able to deliver the same introspective, socially conscious lyrics that we've come to expect from him, but in a way that's going to resonate with a wider audience, which it already is. It's accessible, it's impactful, and it's layered all at the same time. So when you step back and take a look at the whole picture, GNX feels like the culmination of everything Kendrick has done up until this point. It takes the rawness and innovation of his past work, his deep introspection, his social commentary, and wraps it in a more polished package. The sound is a beautiful blend of old and new, the lyrics are as potent as ever, and the entire album just feels like the next step in Kendrick's musical evolution. Here's the way I see it. Take the themes of Compton, California, Kendrick's childhood, the setting that he was brought up in. Themes that have been tackled in all of Kendrick's releases, but especially his earlier ones, I want to say from Overly Dedicated through to Pimp a Butterfly. Then take the easily digestible, radio-friendly nature of something like Damn. Just the impact that it had sonically and lyrically to a wider audience. And then take all of the themes of self-reflection, which I think Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers did better than any other record that Kendrick has released. Couple all of this together, and what do you get? You get GNX. At the end of the day, it isn't just a collection of songs that show a reflection of who Kendrick is now. It's also a testament to how far he's come and potentially where he's going. So why is GNX God tier? To me, it's because it's Kendrick Lamar at the peak of his powers. To make something that is so easy for so many listeners to embrace, while acknowledging nostalgia for California rap, while at the same time still delivering something that is very sonically and thematically complex. To me, it's more than just an album. This here is a cultural touchstone, and I honestly haven't felt this way about a Kendrick album since To Pimp a Butterfly. And a lot of you watching this probably know what people think of that record. So those are my thoughts, but I'd love to hear yours. Throw them in the comments. I will read everything, I promise. And with that said, I hope you all have a fantastic evening, and stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye, and see ya.